My mother was a homeless heroin addict. She moved in with usually different boyfriends. That was how we found our home. Me and my little brother would oftentimes live off of like rolled up bologna and ice cubes, and the only grocery store was actually a gas station across the street, and then everything else was miles away. But my mother I ended up learning her life story, and I found out how how trauma had affected her life and made it difficult for her to find her way out of that situation. But at that point in her life, there was too much of a record and too much of a history for her to maintain any kind of stable employment. So of course, when you think about the life she came from, when she had to run away from home because of the situation there, she moved in with her boyfriend, who provided a safe place for her, and ended up getting pregnant when she was 17 and had her first child at 17. Just imagine what it was like for her. Imagine what it was like to have the upbringing that she did, never knowing what it was like to have security and safety. And we still have those people coming to CoHO right now. And what they need is a Hope Village. They need a place that they can go that's safe. And that's what they need. That's what my mother could have used. My life might have turned out very differently if a Hope Village had existed then. So that's why it's really important to me to be able to provide that. What really kicked it into a reality for me is when I realized that, it's not just the life choices that even result in homelessness in the first place. But I went to college. I have a master's degree in biology. I have had a stable job ever since I left home. And I married a man who's very kind and loving, and he has had a successful job, has 2 master's degrees. We have 2 beautiful children, and we lived in a small, modest home. It's not like we went out and bought, a mansion or anything. And then he lost his job. And you never know when that's gonna come. He just got laid off because he worked for the state. And it wasn't because he was a bad person or didn't do his job. 3 months later, we had no idea this was coming. The sheriff knocks on the door. Our kids are at school, and he gives us 1 hour to fit what we can into a bag while he changes the locks, and we had to leave. This is the home that is our first home we ever bought as a married couple. We brought both of our babies home from the hospital to this place. We watched both of our children learn to crawl and learn to walk here. We had friends over, and we did movie nights and popcorn, and this was the place where life had happened for us. And just like that, it's gone, and you never know who it's going to happen to. It doesn't require an addiction for that to happen. The first thing that crossed our heads was our kids are in school, and in a few hours we had to pick them up. They need dinner, they need a bath, and they need a bed. And so they got to go back to school tomorrow. Where do we go from here? So we spent a lot of time eating Lunchables at the park, or if the weather was bad, sitting inside Chick-fil-A for hours watching our children play in the play place while we shared a nugget, And that was every afternoon. There was no stability for our children. There was no routine of come home, eat your snack, watch your show, play a game with us, brush your teeth, go to bed, you know what I mean? So we lost that. And it shook me to the core. If you lost your home tonight, where would you go? It took us weeks even us who had stable job histories and no addictions and 2 small children, it still took us weeks to get into a new place to live. After we lost our homes, we approached a lot of organizations and government agencies for help, and CoHO and Dr. Fletcher were the only ones that actually did help us. He was on the phone with me every single day asking, how are you doing? And did you find a place? And how can I help you today? So that guy kept our children fed, and every day was putting out feelers to find somebody who would rent to us. It was his reputation that actually got landlords willing to rent to us. So CoHO, it's the big organization, exists to sort of create those connections between people who are ready for their second chance and landlords that are ready to provide a second chance. But we don't have to continue to be the middleman if we bring up Hope Village. Hope Village is following some models from around the country where other tiny home communities have been built to help people in poverty and experiencing homelessness to take responsibility for their lives and to sort of take ownership of it. The people who end up in these places are so eager to prove that they can. And that's because all human beings can if they're given the chance. You know, we can provide them that chance with tiny homes. But Hope Village is different because we're not just meeting an immediate need for like a shower and a meal, but we're actually putting people into their own place, giving them ownership of their own place, and giving them the chance to just sort of rest, recover, heal, get connected with the resources that they need, get a job, save their money, and then they move out as a new person. It's a slow process, but it's holistic. It's not just giving you a place to sleep for the night. It's come here and let's get you back up on your feet. You know how they say sometimes it takes a village? Like, I mean, I have kids that I didn't want to experience what I had to experience as a child, so it was just heartbreaking for me that first night that we laid my 3-year-old son down on the floor of somebody else's home, and he just started wailing. He just begged me, "Mom, I want to go home to my home." He was so confused. He's like, "I just want to go home. And I mean, my heart was broken. And that night was the worst night of my life, I think, as I realized, like, I can't take my son back home. Like, I made all of the right decisions. I didn't follow in my mother's footsteps. I took good care of myself, and I made all the right decisions. And he's still gonna have to go through what I went through, and I just didn't think it was fair. And I had all of that weight on my shoulders. Samantha Hewett's failure as a mother, you know, like, she couldn't protect her children from trauma, just like her mother before her and her mother before her, and you know, I just felt terrible about that. And the wonderful woman that we were staying with, she told me, you know, sometimes it takes a village, right? And I was like, Hope Village. So I know it's cheesy, but you know, we can come together. 964 homeless individuals in Faulkner County. 588 of those are children, they're minors. So let's come together as a village, the village of Conway, Arkansas, and we're gonna build a village to stop that cycle of trauma from perpetuating every single generation. We're gonna change lives, turn them over, not just provide for a temporary resource, but actually give them a new platform and get them out of homelessness. I'd like to see that number go down, and I know that we can do that with programs like this.